Good morning, everyone. What's up, Hank? How's everyone doing? So, SPY down 0.8%, Q's down 0.5%, IWM down 1.75%. All right, it's a pretty big difference. The market's scared. The market is scared. All right, so here, Fed pause market is pricing in a 40% chance of no hike, as all the yields are tumbling, right, due to SVB. So they speak March 22nd, right? So that is 9 days from now. Last week there was an 80% chance, right, of a 50 bip hike, and now it's cut in half. We're cautious with CPI tomorrow. That's going to be tomorrow's going to be a huge day, right? So definitely going to be trading light until tomorrow, and then once we find out what they say at the meeting, right, then we could, get back to regular scheduled or regular sizing. I just need to be cautious. But if there's a setup, right, we'll take it with, correct sizing. Definitely nothing to take, a full port or half port on. If we take a look at VIX, right, VIX bounced right back, right? We bounced right off 2350 again, right above it. And we created a new high from Friday. Right now we're over or sitting right around 30. And we hit 30.8 here this morning. Up above the biggest level on VIX is 34, right? If we see more downside on SPY, VIX is most likely going to push up to 34, right? And that can easily happen with the meeting tomorrow. Yeah, it's a nasty market for sure, right? Volume isn't really as significant anymore. Everyone's just waiting on news, what everyone's looking at. Setups can be invalidated. So yeah, it's definitely a crazy market for sure. Definitely want to be cautious. So let's take a look at the SPY. Right, so last week we saw a huge drop down, right? This previous support, right? This level here at 393 was taken out. We saw a pullback. We rejected perfectly, right? This is where I took those puts that ended up running 1,000%, right? Took the puts here on the rejection, came down, retested, broke down below, tested the new support here, right? We bounced off this level multiple times, 384. Then we started to consolidate, re-rejected again, right? We rejected that previous support as a new resistance. Now we're at 382 here in pre-market, right? So I need to see what happens. If we move to the upside in the morning, right, we could totally reject that low a day from Friday, right? 384.32. If we start to reject, we might see a pullback back down to 380 or 379, right? It's pretty big level here, right? Previous resistance, old support, etc. Okay. The Qs, right? Qs I was looking at last night, setup was pretty decent, right? We kind of had, right, this previous support acting as a support, right? Little double bottom. I was looking at potentially a fake out before a potential breakout, but now, right, market's very weak here. So next level below is 284, 284.7. Right, we got this previous double top back in October. We rejected that same level again in January, right? So only makes sense that it's going to act as a potential support here. If that gets taken out, then we're going to move to the next level below. Yeah, cash is never a bad idea, right? You can't lose staying cash. So IWM absolutely getting murdered, right? Huge drop down from that 185 level. Clean break through that 180 support. Kind of held 175 on Friday, but now we're opening down below here. Next level we're going to want to keep an eye on is around this zone here, 171 or so. All right, so setups for today. Meta is my favorite setup. It's also pretty strong relative, to the overall market. It's only down 0.6% as opposed to everything else down 1 plus or so. Microsoft is 0.3%, but the setup looks great here. Higher lows, lower highs, perfect falling wedge. If we take the fib retracement, right, we're right in the golden zone, right? We're kind of bouncing off the 0.5. We also have this previous resistance from February 21st and March 1st, right? We acted as a support on the 3rd, and we're holding right above now, right? So if the market decides to see some upside for whatever reason, Meta is going to be my top watch. Really like this setup. But this can easily break down. We have a gap to fill to the downside, right? So if this, then that, right? If we break down here and 177 breaks, we have a gap to fill the downside. So keep an eye. Would I own Meta for the IRA? That's up to you. I'm not giving investment advice. This is just the setups I'm playing. AMD looks pretty decent, right? We got higher lows, lower highs. We were consolidating above this previous resistance, acting as a support. If this breaks down 81.8, we're going to test 80.5. And then if that breaks, we'll probably end up pushing back down to 77 or 76 or so. No problem. Microsoft looks good, right? It's definitely one of the stronger names here in pre-market, right? Very tight pricing, price action. Kind of have a double or even a triple bottom here on a smaller time frame. Holding very well. So if this breaks out, right, we have a lot of room to run. But if this breaks down, right, we really don't have that much room to run, right? We have a 3-point move to the downside that we could run. But if it breaks out, we could push all the way up to 255 plus, right? So 7-point plus move, maybe even 259, right? Back to this double top. Pretty sure Biden's speaking this morning. I think he might be speaking now, actually. So curious to how the market moves regarding that. Tesla, very weak here in pre-market, down 3.3%. Support below was 168.44, but we're below that right now. Right, next level is going to be this support here, 162.78, which is this previous on January 31st. All right, then if this breaks, we have a pretty large gap to fill to the downside. Below, let's see what this level is here. Below 154.76, we have a move back down, a 10-point move to 146 or so. He already did speak. I think he was speaking at 9 a.m., right? He's done. All right. NVIDIA is one of my favorite setups for downside, right? This rising wedge, played it last week, right? We took puts here, saw a nice move to the downside right to the target of 230. If this level breaks 224.32, we have a huge gap to the downside. So NVIDIA is actually going to be my top watch to the downside, which is probably more likely, right? Market's been very weak. So keep an eye on this. If we do see a pull back, right, to the upside to 230.5, watch this 230.5 level for a short. Didn't take questions. All right. Apple, decent setup, not really my favorite, right? We have this previous resistance here from the 27th of January. We bounced a few times in between, and we're approaching it again. Right, so if this level doesn't hold, we'll most likely push back down to 144, 143 or so. But not really my favorite setup. Let's see what else we got. I'm pretty sure that's really all I'm looking at today. Let's see if I see anything else quickly. Bitcoin, no. PayPal, can we trade SVB? No. I'm pretty sure they're delisted. So that's what I'm going to watch today, right? NVIDIA, Meta, AMD, Microsoft is now green in pre-market, which is pretty interesting. Everything else is extremely weak. So if the market does see upside, right, QQQ is holding this low for now. It's only down 0.25%. Right, Microsoft, definitely keep an eye on it. It's up 0.16% now. Nothing else is green. Netflix, I mean, Netflix is just seeing continued downside, right? It looks extremely weak. It was at 379. It's at 290 now, in pretty much 1 month. I mean, follow the trend, right? Don't trade the opposite way until it, it shows its hand. Bitcoin looks great. Let's see. I mean, yeah, it's, kind of consolidating above this previous support, but I don't know about great. I don't really like trading Bitcoin or even looking at it. We do have this previous resistance that acted as a support at 2138. So this is going to act as a support below. If this high breaks out, we're probably going to see a push up to 23 or 24,000. But I don't know, Bitcoin, in my opinion, not a fan. Walmart, sure. 1 hour falling wedge, you said. Let's see. This is not a falling wedge. This is just a tightening price action. A falling wedge is a flag. Right, I'll draw it out quickly. This is pretty much a falling wedge right here. Right, where the top is like this. Right, and then it breaks out. The most ideal falling wedge is a high and tight flag, right? When you see a flag that acts like this, right, and it continues to the downside all the way back down to the stem over here. Whoops, I just totally messed that one up. Like this, not a falling wedge, right? You want to see a high and tight flag, right? Yes, this is a tightening channel, but the further it gets away from its flag or the pole, the less valid it becomes. I just use regular trading hours. But let's see what's going on here in pre-market on SPY. Right, so it's just consolidating right below this previous support, right? So it's probably going to act as a resistance, and if we see downside, we'll test that 379 level. So definitely leaning towards the put side, right? SPY puts, QQQ puts at open could potentially work if it rejects. NVIDIA is going to be my top watch though, for sure. Amazon, let's take a look. So Amazon, we had this little wedge here. We also had this double bottom, but we broke down here on pre-market. We do have a gap to fill to the downside. 87, right? We have a gap, a tiny little gap. It's nothing really too big, but we could see a 2-point move or so to the downside. Microsoft's now up 0.4%. I wonder what's going on here. It's starting to move pretty big. Right off that 245 support. So pretty interesting. Right, everything's kind of bouncing off that bottom level. Right, QQQ right off 284. Right, so even in pre-market, the level Meta is now green in pre-market. Just shot up a decent amount. Right, it's holding this low very well. See, here's the pre-market data. Bounced right off 178. And the Qs are holding pretty well as well. I wonder if news is dropping. Because it is moving pretty aggressively here. Microsoft and Meta. And Tesla was just down over 3.5%. Now it's only down 2.7. All right, so we'll keep an eye on these at open. All right, I'll be in voice chat. If anyone has any questions, I usually answer over voice chat. Ask a question if you got one. Yeah. WM is so weak. VIX just hovering here. Yeah, if no one's got any questions, let's transition over to the Discord so we can get on page with all the other analysts. Last Friday, I was just looking at this SPY, right? This previous level here, 393.5, right? We bounced numerous times, rejected, acted as support, right? So we pulled through it, we retested it. There was no chance we were breaking through that again, right? Huge resistance. Third opportunity here, had a stop loss above, price target was the next support below. It's as simple as that. Right? Nothing special. Yeah, real estate's seeing a big correction. Right, interest rates obviously is huge factor. So I need to see what happens with CPI on Tuesday, tomorrow. You're in FRC puts. What do I see? What is FRC? First Republic Bank. Banking sector is tough, right? So right now the chart isn't going to do much for you, right? It's just all based on what happens with SVB and CPI tomorrow. So there's not much to look at for banks.